There is a need to know, but there must be no knower. True knowing about truth, life, God, time, eternity. True knowing cannot have, must not have a knower. The knower always blocks knowing. Where there is understanding, spiritual understanding of life, there is no one who understands. There is pure spiritual insight, understanding. Where there is the false knower, there is no knowing. Were there to be an independent entity who knows. Now, the knower never knows that he is a knower because he's always talking about, lying about, bragging about what he knows about truth. But he or she can never know anything about the higher plane. The very existence of the braggart, of the liar, indicates the knower who is a liar pretending that he understands. It is up to you as a spiritual student to be a very sharp detective. A detective who can from moment to moment detect the entrance of and the taking over of you of the knower who is simply a boastful idea and delusion. You can detect your tyrannization of the knower by seeing that it torments you, that it's compulsive, that it has to have allies to back it up. You can detect the knower by seeing that it always comes from hell and goes out into this world and into your own inner world, does its vicious work, and then returns to hell. Society has not only told you, but screamed at you to intimidate you, to tell you that you are a knower. And then it tells you subtly, oh, how subtle, to be proud of your knowing. For example, know that you are right. Know that you are spiritually right. Know that your way of life is the right way. because you're born faulty, we're all born faulty, you take in this pernicious propaganda as the easy way out of your youthful confusion. And you get excited when parents and friends and associates and other deluded people tell you that you can be a knower of what life is all about. Example, they tell you to know that the pursuit of wealth, power, fame is a good, the overwhelming terror that will arise from you seeing for the first time, you have that seeing, for the first time it'll overwhelm you, seeing the domination, the tyranny of the knower, because you'll understand as you look at pictures of war any place in the world on TV, and you see the cannons going off and all the people, young people, children, middle-aged people all being destroyed. Oh my God, you better do some praying after this class. I instruct you to do some praying after this class. Because you will, one day, if you go far enough, you will sense that the knower and you pulled the trigger on all those cannons of all the wars ever since history began. You will understand that every crime that has ever been, this is not for liars and cowards what I'm telling you. You will understand that every crime that's ever been committed, and I'm talking about ordinary street crime, the killers, the murderers, the rapists, the robbers, you will understand that the great chief criminal of all time throughout the ages is the knower, and the knower that now occupies and commands you. You! Very easy to take great pride in saying, I didn't commit the crime I saw on TV. The knower said that. As long as you know, you don't know. Example. Here's a big summer tourist camp. Vacation camp. Thousands of visitors come to the big lodge out in the beautiful forest, right? And there's a chief woodsman, outdoorsman, who takes charge of all the hikers. And he has a reputation for being never getting lost. Follow this. So he takes tours, guides the hikers out to the west part of the forest, then the north part. He knows the whole part of the forest. And he has the reputation of being the knower of the woods, right? He knows, he understands. Okay. One day he goes out into a territory which even he hasn't explored yet, and he gets lost. He looks around. He doesn't know where he is. It's okay so far. Listen to this. It's okay so far in his own mind for him to be lost because no one else knows he is. Right? Got it? Okay. So he's driving his little Jeep around, lost, doesn't know where to go, left, right, up, down. And he runs into a party of other tourists, visitors, who are not lost. And he can tell. They're having a good time, they're having a little picnic somewhere. He doesn't say anything to them, does he? He doesn't talk to them, doesn't he? See why? He's the knower. And if he tells them he's lost, he's no longer the marvelous knower who knows everything. But he's just an ordinary lost man like everybody else who goes outside there, right? See the conceit. See the self-defense. As long as you call yourself the knower. Now, what's he going to have to do in order to get back home? Get back to the main camp? Sooner or later, to keep the story intact, he's going to have to go up to one of these half a dozen tourist parties, vacation parties he sees around. He's going to have to go up to them, and he's going to have to walk up to one of the men in the little campground. He's going to say, "Excuse me, sir, but I'm lost." Let's estimate a figure. One man or woman in 1,000,000 will go up to the party with he's got all this uniform on, he's got his hat on, he's got a little stripes to show how many years of service he's had. And he goes up and he says, "Excuse me, sir, but I'm lost. Can you show me the way back home?" Who's going to do that? The knower is never going to do that. This is why so few ever make it, What would happen if he did that, though? If he dropped his mere image of being the knower of the whole woods, if he dropped the image of being a knower and went up and confessed that he wasn't a knower, he would know. Right? You've got a lot of work to do, haven't you? You've got to do a lot of this detective work that I've talked about, where moment by moment, look, how marvelous to take this right into your office. How marvelous to take this and talking to other people wherever you are, and see where there's some little vanity in you, some conceit, some stubbornness. That, you're lost, and if you ask those people, they can tell you how to get back home, but your vanity won't let you. The evidence is right in front of you now that what keeps you from being found and keeps you lost is your vanity. But look, if you give up your vanity of being the knower, you're home. All of humanity is given its choice. You can stay a liar, or you can submit yourself, yield yourself to the knowing, and know yourself, sacrifice the knower, which is nothing but stupidity and vanity anyway. You can sacrifice yourself as a knower in order to know, in order to get back home. One day you'll understand what I'm talking about personally, experimentally. What you will know, and I'll illustrate it. You're lost out in the woods. You're the knower. You know all about life. You'll know all about spiritual things. You're a liar. You're dangerous to yourself. But you go up to that man in the party that you know they're not lost, and you go up, and in great fear and trembling, your whole world's about to collapse, isn't it? You go up and say, "Here you are, all your badges on. Sir, I'm lost. How do I get back home?" Oh, what a critical moment when he looks at you and he looks at your badges, and you wonder what he is thinking of you. At that moment is the beginning of the destruction of the knower. Go through it! You have to go through it 1,000 times, 10,000 times. That is a very natural thing in you if you are beginning to love the truth. Because the natural expansiveness is then directed towards something where you have two rewards.
the reward of expressing this natural creativity in you, but more the reward of expressing it towards something that is eternal. Now, an ordinary businessman who goes out and conducts his shop or his factory or whatever, he only has one reward. And that one is right, but it's not sufficient. He has a reward of getting up and saying, I'm going to expand my business. That is not wrong. That is right. That's something that nature gave you. Maybe you didn't know that before now, as long as you're doing it honestly. Here we have the double reward of a natural expansion of our powers. Remember the word self-development? That's a law of life, is it not? Therefore, you are obeying the law of life when you want to be a better businessman. Whatever it might be, it doesn't make any difference. Because you can sense the rightness of the development of your intellectual center, your ability to reason. Maybe I shouldn't send 2 trucks to pick up supplies, but I could get 1 truck and fill it up a little more, so I could save gasoline and wages and so on. That is right, because your mind is expanding. Now, why should you expand your mind at all? Because it must happen. You must develop it so that you can see the limitation of the mind in going on to the second reward. There's no way a man can ever feel right by losing himself in his business. You ladies, you'll never feel right by losing yourself in your family, in your children, and your spouse. So there is, to summarize at this point, a natural wish to grow, to develop. And at a certain point, that development will meet a very curious turn, which is, as I just explained, you'll see that you cannot be happy by expanding your business. It's right, but it's not eternal. It's temporary. Look, any man can go out and start a business when he's 18 years old, and when he's 80, be the president of a huge corporation around the world. But he's 80 years old, and he's living from that factory that he started when he was a young man, not living from the Spirit of truth. Therefore, he has wasted his life. He could have incorporated the 2 urges to grow, develop himself, which naturally develops a business, doesn't it not? He could have incorporated the 2, and when he was 80, he'd be the only man in that, the employees, 80,000 employees coming every morning through the gates. He'd be the only man among the 80,000 there who knew that he had found something that is not of this world. Understand that so far? So, he started, our hero of the story, started a potato chip factory. And he liked it. He was interested. He worked hard, long hours. It was fun. It was great. Because there was something in him that already at the beginning had begun to see why he was here on earth. And it wasn't to sell potato chips. You could sell potato chips and be quite spiritual. Did you know that? All right. He started the factory, built it up. Sales went fine. He innovated, got new kinds of products and so on. After about a year, though, something happened that he didn't understand. But he thought he did. Because he wasn't quite yet a good student of human nature. He'd concentrated so much on potato chips, he didn't get over into the other area yet. So, oh yes, he had snacks too as he went out in the factory. Tasted them, see if they were right, and improve them. You want to own a chocolate factory now? See, I say chocolate factory, and I'll tell you the thought that went through you, Dorothy. Calories. Right? Potato chips Potatoes have calories. They grease them in oil. One day you will be free of calorie counting. How many would like to see that day? Okay, all right. Here's what happened in the potato chip factory. Mistakes by employees, errors, even some that were quite disastrous and cost them a lot of money. And here's what was happening. Out in that factory, the employees were making all sorts of mistakes that cost money. For example, the chief potato chip cooker cooked them too long or too short, so they went into the bags and went out to the stores. People returned them, and the store in turn returned them to the factory. Or the package said 16 ounces of potato chips and it was only filled with 10 ounces of potato chips, which of course would be illegal and dishonest. Someone was making a mistake. The buyer of the original potatoes bought them from Idaho when he should have bought them from California, or vice versa. A lot of errors were happening in that factory. The factory's your life, right? Do you make a lot of mistakes by buying Idaho potatoes or whatever? But he was a good executive. And when a problem came up, he faced it instead of evading it. Now, you want to be a good executive of your life, you could stop right there and get great value. A problem came up, you face it instead of passing it on, instead of burying it somewhere in your subconscious. Tackle the problem of employee mistakes. And of course that scares everybody because everybody is hiding something. Okay. So we watched the results of the second reprimand, of the second talk to them. No correction. The problems increased. The mistakes went on. The loss of money went on through thousands of returns of potato chips to the potato chip factory. He sighed a little bit and he said, well, maybe the next thing would be to have an inspector who generally walks around and inspects the products, makes sure that the right number of ounces of potato chips is in the right sack, that the right labels are on the right packages, the potatoes are bought from the right place at the best price. Inspector to check up on other people. So he appointed an inspector. The inspector spent all his time walking around the factory, making little notes, writing things down for a month. No correction. Mistakes continue. He didn't know what to do. And by the way, the reason he didn't know what to do is because he didn't know human nature. What you're going to learn now this morning is you already have an extremely basic spiritual lesson, which we'll get to in a minute. Finally, something occurred to him to do that at first he didn't want to do it. And the reason he didn't want to do it is because he knew instinctively, as you all know, how easy it is to arouse hostility in people. And you'll see why in a minute. So he finally decided, as a drastic measure, to do the following. Oh, what a lesson. From now on, every employee, 300 employees out there, every single one of them became an individual employee who had to sign his name to his own work. Now, let that sink in a little bit, because maybe you've never thought of it that way. Everyone out there in the factory, when he put a number of packages into the truck ready to be delivered, he signed his name that he was responsible for that phase of the whole operation, from raw potato to being in the truck to being delivered. Every one of the 300 employees had to take individual responsibility for what they did, and no one else was responsible for them. They were responsible for themselves. One man was responsible, and the other 299 employees had no responsibility. There is one person responsible. Already I know what's going through your minds, and you don't, because you can't watch the movements as they happen. Because if you had been responsible for your own work, you wouldn't be in the shape that you're in out there now. New rule. Everybody signs their... Never do anything but get them to put it in writing. There's the evidence right there. Never ask people, tell me if you did your work right. They'll always say, I did my work right. Then when it turns out wrong, and you go to them and say, did you do your work right? They'll lie, I did it right. The man next to me did it wrong. Aren't we a pathetic bunch? Let me tell you again, I don't think I've told you this for a couple of years, one of the chief statements of cowardly human beings, let's see if you've ever said it, it's not my fault. Inflation's not my fault. Riots in the Capitol, it's not my fault. You had better stop that. And the only way to do that is seeing that you're saying it. So all the employees had to sign something saying that they and they alone are responsible for that phase of the work. They hated it. You're cornering them. You're putting them in a sense where there's no way they can weasel out, which they'll do every time. Everyone will. Look at the politicians, the inflation, the unemployment. It's always the other party, isn't it? But let me tell you something. After you instituted that rule, the mistake stopped. I have given you a spiritual lesson from the mountaintop itself. That if you will sign your name to every thought and every act, every attitude, everything you do, and don't let yourself get away with it, your mistakes as a human being will stop, and you will stop hurting the world. How could we be so careless, so lazy, as to evade personal, individual responsibility? Look, I better tell you something. He talked to the factory workers. I'm going to tell you something. Only individual work, individual responsibility for results will ever give you the individual reward of something higher than this life. Now, if your mind is attuned to getting the rewards that society offers out that door, rich and famous and acceptance and a chance to hide out, you can have that reward. That's what the world wants. You can have that if you want. But you'll be a sick and you'll be a scared. And you will be a totally worthless human being. Worthless, useless to yourself. Can you think of anything worse than that? For you to be worthless, useless to your own existence here on earth. That's the way it is out there. When are you going to sign your name? When are you going to stop? When are you going to stop letting yourself get away with it? Now, you have to do it. I gave you a parallel in the potato chip factory. You have to do it. And you have to recognize the horror and the folly of being a little coward, a little excuser who wants to remain lost and then blame other people for your condition. This class obviously is hardly for the masses of people. It's for the individual working out in the factory of life who can begin to understand what we're doing here, where we're saying this is the time to stop lying, to stop shifting the blame onto someone else. Your rightness is your reward. I look out and I can see all your faces now, and most of you are quite interested in this. But the new person who comes, and she's looking over at the wall or looking at something over there. Not interested, right? I want you to increase your interest in what is going on here 1,000%. You don't have to live in the slums of the big town. Oh, you can move to the little cabin next to the waterfall if you want. Well, what a difference it will be. You'll understand what I'm talking about. Oh, if all you know is the dreary, noisy big town with all those horrible robots walking down the street and driving cars and giving speeches and preaching sermons. If that's all you know now, I'll tell you how to change. You sign your name so that you're responsible. You are 100% responsible from this moment on. Now listen to me, listen to me. And no one else is. Not your father who beats you once a week for 20 years. Not your super sick mother who lied about everything for 20 years. As of this moment, you will escape time. You will not think. You will simply know where you are right now. And when you know where you are right now, that is the place that refuses to complain and say, look what they did to me. See, if you sign your name, then when life shows that you made a mistake, you can say, I know really, honestly, for the first time, who made that blunder? Me. Thank God for the honesty of seeing that I did it now. Now I can ask God to correct it. See, you already learned something. You've learned not to try to correct your own mistakes. Have you ever done that? Didn't work, did it? We're tracking responsibility. Everything, no exceptions. We know the world is mad. We know they try to do things. They threaten and kill. We know that. That's not the point. We're not concerned with the threats and the killings and the dishonesties of this world. We're concerned with going against our old treacherous nature and signing our name. So when the mistake comes up, we can say, I made the mistake. I see that. Okay. Now that I've seen the mistake. You see, when you really see that you made a mistake, you also see the possibility of it being corrected. Not by you. The mistake maker can't correct anything. But you see that you made a mistake because you were asleep. You were full of pride and vanity and all that. And you understand that really, maybe you've heard this phrase before, but I assure you, I guarantee you, it is valid and accurate. You learn what it means to turn it over to God. And what it means to turn it over to God is to be right where you are, in awareness, outside of time, where you can see the whole picture clearly, the whole picture that something outside of you can and will make the correction for you. In the light, you see what has to be done. And then you no longer see that person. You no longer hang around the people you used to hang around with. And among other things, you no longer deliberately torture yourself with useless problems, because you see that you deliberately invited the problems in order to give yourself an agitated state, which you could call you. Lord, you call that good. At last, something is turning into my favor. It's about time, you tell yourself, that you're getting rewarded for your conscientious work, your hard work, your diligence, or whatever. By the way, it's about time is a favorite cry of the neurotic, of an individual living in fantasy land. It's about time. Have you ever said it? It's about time you recognize my innate greatness, huh? It's about time you recognize what a qualified, nice person I am. So we have settled, if you can see it, all unhappiness involves something shaking inside of you which you fear to let go. Now let's see if this will help you let go. I'll say it again. All shaking in fear of any kind, of anticipation of what you're going to get. All that is harmful to you because it is not something on the solid ground of reality, but your choice of the moment of a delusory state,
and which you can keep your fantasy life and fantasy self going toward what you call your rightful reward. Now you are going to have to wake up and understand what you were doing against yourself by not knowing that all shaking comes from a lost nature, a mechanical nature, a dreary, sad, separated nature. And you had better realize it increasingly a bit more every day. Can you imagine maybe this deliberate putting of two opposites together will make it clear? Can you imagine a peaceful mind agitating? Look, it's one or the other, isn't it? Therefore, a peaceful nature, a quiet nature, is simply one that has absence of everything contrary to itself. A free mind is one that doesn't want to vibrate with anything. No promises. You can't bribe a free mind, a free man, a free woman. That's the last thing it wants, is any kind of a sad vibration or an excited vibration. That's the last thing it wants, because it has come to realize, it knows that all shakings are separation. You have been betrayed and you don't see it. You're listening to the betraying, whispering voice of getting excited when you get a nice thing said about you. You're listening to that, taking that as good when it's bad. You take the good as bad because you don't see it. This is why it's so essential to start seeing and stop misinterpreting what you see. You see and feel that going on, you know. You see, and you say, that's good. Why you wish you can? By the way, why do you want your way? Why do you want your way about anything? You want your way because the very demand is the shaking. And here's what the shaking says. It always divides itself into two parts. Maybe I'll get what I want if I demand. See, I smile. Maybe he'll turn me down. But I've got a refuge if he turns me down, she turns me down. I'll get mad and hate him. Vibration continues either way, right? We're going to go into that a little bit more. All emotional, mental, physical, psychic vibrations are hell and suffering. If you have chosen hell and suffering, you will make sure that nothing can take it away from you. Now, follow it in a daily practical experience so you never make a mistake anymore like you've made it in the past. And it's so clear in front of your eyes, but I don't want you to miss it. To go from a happy, leading the crowd feeling of self-delight, that's the first one. That's the first vibration. Then, because you're an ignorant, stupid human being who must pay the price of that stupidity, of living in darkness, you continue the self-deception by deliberately insisting upon the opposite vibration, which is one of hatred, violence, sitting in the cell, feeling sorry for yourself. Human sickness, neurosis, makes quite sure that it never loses itself, but merely changes from one shaking
to the next. Oh, are you going to have to work to catch yourself slipping from one egotistical, destructive shaking to the next one, which you don't see because you call it something else? All right, you are marching down the street of your life, followed by all your pet notions of what is good for you. For example, be as vicious and lying as you want as long as you get the raise in salary. Join an organization, that's it. Join a pressure group. Join the other haters. And scream and lie and do everything possible so you stupid human being can get your $30 a month more and continue to kill everyone. Starting with yourself. Do you know that dumb people don't know they're dumb? Is that clear to you? All right. You are followed by all these types of ideas. Only if you know what is going on as you're marching down that street do you have a chance, when time intervenes, to shake you a little bit while you're marching. Only if you pay attention to these lessons will you be able to stop between the two vibrations and see what a horrible trick you're playing by going from "I love you, world, for giving me what I want," and then when you're denied, to say "I hate you for denying what I want." You've got to see the precise point between the switch in the same vibrations, and they are the same because they're all based in self-hatred, self-violence.